When the war ended, I expected silence. I didn't expect an invitation. My name is Adam Reyes, former logistics officer of the Terran Coalition fleet, stationed on the far edge of human-controlled space during the Caraxian War. For 3 brutal years, we fought an empire that towered over us technologically and militarily. We called them the Caraxians. Their ruler, Empress Valeth, was a name whispered like a curse across human colonies. But wars end. Empires change. And one morning, after the treaty ink had barely dried, a silver-sealed diplomatic message arrived on my terminal. You are invited to the Imperial Palace of Carax Prime. Purpose: Cultural Exchange Initiative. Personal request of Empress Valeth. I read it 3 times, convinced it was either a prank or a death sentence. I wasn't a diplomat. I wasn't even a hero. I was a quartermaster who made sure soldiers had rations and fuel. My most notable skill was improvising meals out of near-spoiled supplies. Still, orders were orders. 2 weeks later, I stepped off a shuttle into a city that shimmered like liquid metal under twin suns. The Palace of the Conqueror. Carax Prime was not built like any human world. Towers curved like molten glass frozen mid-pour. Bridges floated without supports. Air carried the faint hum of invisible machines. The palace itself was a mountain of silver and black crystal, reflecting the sky in fractured rainbows. Alien guards escorted me inside. They were tall, slender, with pale violet skin and eyes like polished obsidian. Their armor seemed grown rather than forged. No one spoke. No one needed to. Every footstep echoed with the weight of history and conquest. Finally, I was led into a vast chamber. A single figure sat upon a throne shaped from a living tree of crystal. Empress Valeth. She was taller than any human I'd ever seen, draped in flowing dark fabric that shimmered like oil on water. Her crown was minimal, just a thin ring of star metal around her head. Her face was sharp, regal, and emotionless. Her eyes locked onto mine. Adam Reyes, she said in perfect English. Her voice sounded like distant bells over deep water. The one who fed soldiers during the siege of Orenbelt. I swallowed. Yes, Your Majesty. You kept 10,000 humans alive when supply lines collapsed. I just cooked with what we had. She tilted her head. Precisely why I summoned you. I blinked. Summon me? Sit, she said, pointing to a table set between us. We will share a meal. I glanced at the table. It was filled with Caraxian cuisine, gelatinous shapes, glowing liquids, metallic-looking fruits. It all smelled faintly of ozone and minerals. I did appreciate the honor, I said carefully, but I was told this was cultural exchange. I thought maybe I could cook something for you instead. A murmur rippled among the attendants. No one had ever refused an imperial table. Valeth's eyes narrowed. You would cook for me? Yes. A human meal. A simple one. Silence stretched. Then the Empress raised a hand. Granted. And suddenly, I was standing in an imperial kitchen the size of a starship hangar, cooking for an alien empire. The kitchen was full of tools I didn't recognize. Floating heat orbs, gravity-controlled blades, self-stirring cauldrons. Alien chefs watched me with mild horror. I requested basic ingredients. The palace had some human supplies from diplomatic stores: rice, flour, salt, vegetables, lab-grown meat. Nothing fancy. I decided on the one dish that had kept me alive during the war. Simple chicken stew with flatbread. No luxury. No ceremony. Just warmth in a bowl. I chopped vegetables by hand, ignoring the automated slicers. I kneaded dough with my palms. I stirred the stew slowly, letting flavors build. The scent of onions, garlic, and herbs filled the massive kitchen. The Caraxians sniffed the air curiously. Some tilted their heads, as if hearing strange music. 2 hours later, I carried a tray into the throne chamber. A single bowl of stew. A piece of warm flatbread. Nothing more. I placed it before the Empress. "This," I said, "is a meal from Earth. It's what we ate when everything else failed." Valeth studied the bowl as if it were a strange artifact. Then she lifted a spoon. The first bite. Every eye in the chamber watched. She tasted the stew. At first, nothing changed. Her face remained impassive, royal, eternal. Then she took another spoonful, and another. She tore a piece of bread, dipped it into the broth, and ate slowly. Minutes passed. No one spoke. No one dared. Finally, she set the spoon down. Her shoulders trembled. A single tear formed at the corner of her dark eye and slid down her violet skin. Gasps echoed across the hall. I froze. "Your Majesty? Is something wrong?" Valeth looked at me, and in her eyes, I saw something no human had ever seen on the face of the conqueror of worlds. "Grief. This flavor," she whispered, voice cracking, "is memory." I didn't understand. "I'm sorry if—" "No," she said quickly. "You do not understand. This meal, it is simple. Honest. Without ceremony. Without power." She stood from her throne. The entire court fell to their knees, but she paid them no attention. She walked slowly toward me. "When I was young," she said softly, "before I became Empress, I lived on a frontier world. My mother cooked meals like this. Simple food. Warm hands. Shared tables." Her voice trembled again. "When my world was conquered, my mother was killed. I have ruled an empire since. I have eaten feasts designed by scientists, meals crafted to perfection. But none have tasted of memory. None have tasted of home." Another tear fell. "This meal," she said, "reminded me that I was once a child." The chamber was utterly silent. I didn't know what to say. So I did the only thing that felt right. I bowed. "I'm honored it meant something to you." Valeth exhaled slowly. Then she raised her voice so the entire court could hear. "Let it be known," she declared, "that a human has given the Empress a gift no empire ever could." Her attendants struck their staffs against the floor in reverence. I thought the moment was over. I was wrong. A new proposal. Later that night, I was escorted to private quarters in the palace. I expected to be sent home the next day. Instead, a messenger arrived. "The Empress requests your presence again." I followed him to a smaller chamber. No throne this time. Just a table, 2 chairs, and another bowl of stew that I had prepared earlier. Valeth sat waiting. "Adam Reyes," she said, "sit. Eat with me." So I did. We ate in silence for a while. Just 2 beings sharing food. Then she spoke. "The war ended, but the hatred remains. Humans fear us. My people resent your resistance. Peace signed on paper is not peace in hearts." I nodded. "That's true." She folded her hands. "I want you to stay." I nearly choked on my bread. "Stay. You will create a new program. Teach my chefs human cooking. Teach my people the meaning of shared meals. Not feasts of dominance. Meals of equality." I stared at her. "You want food diplomacy?" "Yes." I laughed nervously. "Your Majesty, I'm just a quartermaster with a cookbook." "And I," she said quietly, "am an empress who cried over stew. We each have our strengths." For the first time, her lips curved into something resembling a smile. "Will you help me feed peace into the hearts of my people?" I thought of the soldiers I had fed during war. The tired faces lifting at the sight of warm food. The way simple meals kept despair away. If food could keep humans alive, maybe it could also keep peace alive. I extended my hand. Yes, I said. I'll stay. She placed her hand over mine. Then history begins anew. Seeds of change. Months passed. Imperial kitchens transformed. Caraxian chefs learned to knead dough. Alien children tasted bread for the first time. Markets began selling vegetables grown for flavor, not just efficiency. Humans visiting Carax Prime no longer felt like prey in a predator's den. They sat at tables. They shared bowls. They laughed. Word spread across both civilizations. The Empress wept once. Now she smiles at dinner tables. And slowly, suspicion softened. One evening, Valeth and I stood on a balcony overlooking the city of silver towers. The twin suns were setting. You changed my empire, she said. I shook my head. You chose to change. She glanced at me. Perhaps. But you reminded me that even rulers were once children.
She paused.
I am still feared. I am still powerful. But now, when my people eat, they remember they are alive, not merely dominant. A breeze passed between us. Adam Reyes, she said, your name will be written in imperial history. I chuckled. As the guy who made stew? As the man who fed an empire's heart, she replied. The last meal. Years later, when peace between our species became real and lasting, I returned to Earth for a visit. In a small restaurant on a quiet street, I cooked chicken stew and flatbread for old friends. The smell filled the room. They asked me about Carax Prime, about the Empress, about the palace. I simply smiled. Turns out, I said, sometimes the smallest things change the universe. Far across the stars, on a throne of crystal and silver, an empress lifted a spoon to her lips and tasted a meal that reminded her she was once human in spirit, if not in form. And she smiled too.